Well, welcome to another whiskey review with me, the Whiskey Novice. Thank you for joining me. It's great to be here with you for review number 82 and part 3 of my series looking at some independent bottlers. Now, this is a bottle. Before I go any further, I just want to mention that this was another bottle that was gifted to me by Mr. Drew Lane from out there in the United States, and a very, very kind gift it was. I can't thank Drew enough. I think a few of us in the community know Drew, or most of us probably know Drew by now, and a very, very much appreciated gift. And it suits this series very well because we're looking at an independent bottler, and I'm going to say the new kids on the block. Bràithrean, established in 2019, that new by brothers Andy and Brendan. That's as much as I can tell you about them, but that's who did it. And what I love about what they're doing, I think this is an incredibly clever thing. This was their second release. It's a Benrinnes 11-year-old. And what they do is they take the cask, whatever it may be, their cask of whiskey, and they split it and they age it for two different, not a massive difference between them, but they age them for different lengths of time. And the shorter length of time being the wee brother, which this is with the white label, and the big brother, which is a black label. So out of each cask, they split and they get equal amounts, thereabouts, of the wee brother and big brother. And I think, as I said, it's a very clever idea. Something different. Bràithrean in Gaelic, just to put it in there, means the brothers. So it fits very well into what they're doing. And I think they've done something different, something new, and fair play to these boys. This is a Benrinnes 11-year-old, matured for 11 years in bourbon hogshead before being finished in first fill Fernando de Castilla Oloroso Sherry Octave. So there's a mouthful for you. That's what happened to this. And it makes for an interesting little beastie, because you're looking at something bottled at 48%, like almost all I've mentioned before, independent bottlings. Non-chill filter, no colour added, incredibly natural as you see it. It's a very, very fresh thing, this. Very fresh. Benrinnes, they're a Speyside distillery, but this to me doesn't act terribly like a Speyside as you would know it initially. Give it time. And that word initially is going to get used here again because it's tight initially. I think that's what the problem is with the nose on it. It just starts out a little tight. It takes time to be coerced, to be convinced. But when it starts to open up, magic happens. Like with most of them, give them time. Bright, if a little sharp. But they're two things that sort of come hand in hand anyway. I'm going to use a word here. Christmassy. It's a festive nose to this whiskey. Now, when I say that, I don't mean, I'm not going to go with Christmas cake again, just yet. There's just festive things off it. And we'll maybe hit them as I go along. Cinnamon. The fruit cake is there, but just not initially. Slight hint of dried tobacco. And then it does begin to open. It starts to release itself. And it reveals citrus. A little, I want to use quite a lot recently, a little pine sap. And it's not just wood sap, but it's pine sap. If you buy cheap pine from a hardware store building, and you'll generally get a plank that's oozing sap, and there's a very, very distinct smell of it. Cooked boiled ham, Christmassy yet again, for me anyway. It's spirity, but it's not overpowering. Spirit settles well in it. Cinnamon's a very pronounced note in it. Sweet, sharp delivery. A strong hint of virgin oak, but, and once again, there's those of you who'll know that I'm not a fan of virgin oak maturation. Just doesn't sit very well with me. But it's not virgin oak. We know this. There's just, whatever way it's been made, it has a hint of virgin oak, a strong hint of virgin oak, but well and truly tempered by the Oloroso finish. And whatever magic has been worked on this, because if virgin oak tasted like this, I would like virgin oak, I think, because it's more cinnamony, but it's powdered cinnamon. A big flavour. It almost acts like powdered cinnamon. And then to me, it just screams festive. It's Christmassy. Red berries. Hints of blackcurrant. Hints of chocolate. It gets more and more and more complex with every sip. When I was doing my tasting notes in this, I can't remember the last time I took so long over a glass doing tasting notes. Tasting, and I literally poured about this much. Tasting it, letting it sit, let it sit, let it sit, let this sit. And it will get more and more and more complex. It's not that young, it's 11 years old. It's just, there's been some sort of magic carried out here, and it works. Clove, orange, confectionery. Yeah, it works very well, given time. The finish is quite long. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's even longer than I remember. More of that cinnamon. More berries, more confectionery. But it's a good memory whiskey. Once again, Christmassy, festive, good memories. Slightly hot, but not overpoweringly hot. Very good. Remembering that these guys only established themselves in 2019. A lot of the independent bottlers I've been looking at in this series, and it's a short series, I've said before, only 5 in this series, an awful lot more independent bottlers out there than that. Just picked off a few to start with. These guys are new in town. They're young men, they're working this through. It's a big undertaking, and if this is anything to go by, keep an eye out for them. A little water opens better. Remember, it was opening anyway, but becomes more balanced. That fruit, the sweetness, the berries, the confectionery that was found in the palate, that I found in the palate and the finish, now start to show up in the nose. Now, that always sounds a bit silly to me, for the simple fact that you've still got a memory of that from the palate and the finish. Really, if I was cleansing my palate and then going back to start again, nosing it, etc., with water, I do this when I'm doing my tasting notes. But for now, I'm just rushing through it a little just to keep this to a watchable length. But yeah, a lot of that stuff that was in the palate, in the finish, with the addition of water, now starts to show up in the nose. So it opens up, it blossoms, sweetness, confectionery, etc. starts to come through. Still loads of cinnamon. Cinnamon's the big word in this one for me. Warmer, slightly less prickly, more creamy. Actually, cinnamon calms a little with the addition of water. And it just becomes a bit more spicy, but it's not hot, spicy cinnamon. Finish, still long, still loads of flavour. So yeah, good. Now, these guys, as I said, are young in more ways than one. But they know more about whiskey than I do. And something to remember, and something to take with you if you're new-ish to whiskey, is if you like a distillery, if you have a particular whiskey that sits well with you, a particular distillery that continues to make whiskey that you like, take a punt on independent bottling of them. Because you generally can't go far wrong, I think. Remember that the independent bottler is a whiskey enthusiast. They didn't just get into this for the fun of it. They know whiskey. These guys know whiskey. So allow them to show themselves, to show their hand by taking a cask, taking their time over it, saying, this is when I think it's good to go. It might not work. It might not work for your palate. It may just not work, full stop. But I think there's enough knowledge in these. There's certainly enough knowledge in independent bottlers to know when a thing works, so you can trust them. And if there's a particular distillery that you're a fan of, it's worth looking down some of the paths of the independent bottlers, because you get a much more natural thing in most cases. If you take a distillery there that is releasing something at 40%, they're adding colour, they're stripping it all away with chill filtration. Okay, it maybe has an age statement, and you have an independent bottler come along behind them, releasing it at 46%, everything intact. Okay, you pay more for it, but trust me, it's worth it, because you'll get a better idea of what you're actually dealing with. There, speech over. Let's just move on to this. This, if you like this, what I'm going to suggest to you is, and it's not necessarily right, I'll show you what it is first. Stay on the space side. Aberlour, Abuna. People say this is a sherry bomb, this is a beast, etc., etc. This is the batch 63. Just for your info. But it's that heft. There's more cinnamon in this, Bràithrean. There's more of those festive notes. This Abuna is more of probably the sherry notes. But there's a palate feel, which I find very similar in both of them. This is 61% ABV, quite a bit stronger than this. But there's there's certainly things I felt in between. This is sold out, certainly from their own website. But an awful lot of us out there, I imagine, will have had the Abuna. So the idea of, as you should know by now, if you like this, then try this, is something that you've maybe had. If you can't get hold of this, at least it'll give you an idea of what we're talking about. They're not going to be the same, but they'll be similar. So there you go. If you've had this and you liked it, well then give Abuna a go. A lot of these, if you like this, then try this, are going the other way. So if you've had Abuna and you liked it, and you can get your hands on the Benrinnes 11-year-old Bràithrean, then give it a shot if you can get your hands on it. This, yet again, is a bit of a problem when reviewing independent bottlings, because I've said it in comments, I've said it to other people, it's a minefield because there's so many of them out there, and the chances a lot of times of actually getting a bottle are slim, because they're bottled in such small numbers. This is bottle number, actually I didn't give that. This is bottle number 40 of 75. So that sort of explains that. But if you did get a bottle, if you did pick up a bottle, I hope you've checked out my review, and I hope that I maybe found some of the things that are actually in there. For now, once again, I'd like to thank Drew Lane very, very much for this. It's a wonderful gift, it really is, and great to try. And I tend to, as I've said before, tend to have whiskies that I want to review in my collection. So I will almost create a series around them. And there's a few, as a matter of fact, nearly every bottle in this series I wished to review. So they all sit very well. That was part of the main reason why this series came about, because I wanted to review each and every bottle. Yeah, this just opens up with more orange, more citrus, more lemon. And the cinnamon has calmed off. It really has. Good, very good. So, thank you very, very much for joining me. Thank you for the support. Thank you very, very much to my patrons. If you wish to join that group, the details are below. Till the next time, my friends, here's to your good health. Cheers.
Hey, thanks for watching my video. Please click and subscribe to be notified of further content.